Hey guys, Marcus here with Meet and Greet. Welcome back. Not only just welcome back, but welcome to my humble abode. Today's video is very special. Guys, I solemnly swear on camera to the entire ether that this video will 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, up your brisket game, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Today's video is very special. I'm going to give you guys a rundown on exactly what this video is, and then I will waste no time jumping directly into the video. But before we do that, we have to, of course, cue the intro. Now, I know what you're thinking, friend. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Marcus, I've seen all of the how to trim a brisket videos that YouTube has to serve up to me. And you probably wouldn't be wrong if you're a barbecue fanatic and nerd like me. But every once in a while, there is a video that goes out to YouTube that is genuinely special and very unique and different from the rest. And well, this video, I think, is that. Last year, I went out to Montgomery, Texas to hang out with our good friends over at Bar-A-BBQ. And while I was there, I didn't have the camera crew or anything crazy with me, but while I was there, I just kind of hooked up my camera, threw a shotgun mic on it, and just caught some footage here and there when I could. Hung out there for a couple days. It was a great time, and those guys are always a blast to hang out with. Fast forward many months to now, I was cleaning out one of my hard drives, and I saw a 20-minute video on there that I did not recognize. So literally yesterday, I clicked the video, popped it up on my laptop, and watched it, and I slowly realized that what I was able to capture was Alec, an incredible pit master, an incredible brisket cook, and an amazing human being. I realized that I captured Alec putting on a clinic on how to trim a brisket. The guys over at Bar-A trim, in my opinion, some of the most beautiful briskets that ever grace social media. And so anyways, I found this video and it almost didn't feel fair that I had this video. Obviously, I created this channel to make all of the content that I wish I had when I was coming up in barbecue. I mean, that's a guiding, leading principle of this channel, and frankly, it's the channel mantra. Anytime I think, what video should I create, I just cross-reference that with, well, what did I wish I had learning barbecue over a decade ago, and then I make that. Well, this video, if I would to have had this 10 years ago, would have shortened my learning curve on trimming briskets tremendously. So, here's the deal. This video is not some crazy, highly edited cuts and music and all that. It's not that. What I wanted to create in this video is a you're in the moment with us type of video. Does that make sense? What I wanted to do was just have it raw and nearly uncut. And you just drop right in the restaurant with us. And again, watch Alec put on a clinic on how to trim a brisket. And I'll say this in summary. Do not let this video go in one ear and out the other. And please, I mean this truly, do not be desensitized to content, especially when it comes to barbecue content. What I mean is, it is extremely rare to get a barbecue restaurant out of Texas where the standard is so high. Texas barbecue standard is the highest out of all the states. I mean, the standard in Texas is near perfection. It is extremely rare to get a barbecue restaurant at the top of their game willing to teach you nearly everything they know about barbecue. So, when you watch this, just understand that you are learning how to trim a brisket, which to me is just as important as the cook. You are learning how to trim a brisket from a guy who has trimmed thousands of brisket and cooks thousands of pounds of meat weekly. That is rare. That does not happen often. And I don't want to talk this video up and make it seem like it's just the silver bullet key to your brisket success, but it is rare. Frankly, it is rare to get a group of guys this willing to share content and information. So I say all that to say, please appreciate this video for what it is and go show Alec, the pit master over at Bar-A-BBQ. Go show Alec some love on his Instagram. I'll link his Instagram in the description. Please, it would mean a lot to me if you were to drop in the comments and just let Alec know that you're thankful for him taking the time to teach brisket trimming at, I don't know, it had to have been like 5 or something in the morning. He got there at 3. So I feel like it was like 5 or something in the morning. Thank him for taking the time in the middle, literally of the middle of a very busy morning. There was a festival happening. They had tons of proteins going. He was manning the entire ship during the graveyard shift. And so he took the time to walk through how to trim a brisket, found the footage, it was archived, didn't even remember it existed, found it, and figured wouldn't be fair to keep this to myself, so now you have it. And real quick, sorry, I just remembered. He had trimmed the mohawk off the brisket. So keep that in mind. Where you're joining into the discussion, Alec had just removed the mohawk of the brisket. So you didn't miss much at all. He just took the mohawk off, and then where we're dropping you is he's explaining that Bar-A sorts out their meat trimming from the fat trimming, and it goes into sausage and a whole deal. He's explaining that. He just hacked the mohawk off, and now you are in the video. Enjoy.
This one's a little trickier because you have so much fat intertwined. So again, we're not going to get it perfect, but we're going to get it close to perfect. Like this, you know, you might look at it and think, oh, that'd go in the meat bin, but it's mostly fat. I'm feeling what's there with my thumb, kind of determine what bin I'm going to throw that in. And it's fat. One thing that's real important with that cut, if you I'll show you what I did. You know, I essentially just went in one motion, and as I get here, I start to come down and curve it because we want a nice round curve shape right here. So my next cut, I'm gonna kind of come and finish that off. I'm gonna pull up this layer right here of fat, and this is a good way to show me what excess fat I have, you know, where this edge right here, I don't want to take that off. I don't want to take off this right here on this side. I just want to go in between because this is what's excess. So kind of the same mentality in the mohawk. I'm going to find where it kind of feathers off, which is right there, where it starts to even out with, you know, the rest of the fat that I pulled it up from. And then I'm going to take that off, come down here, and smooth it out again. So the trick is to leave on as much fat in this back part of the brisket as we can, but also we want to make sure we have a nice round shape. You're never going to have fat covering this part, but a perfect brisket, you'll have meat exposed there, but fat along the rest of it. Now, this particular brisket has some of the next muscle left on it. Like this meat right here is not brisket meat. That's from the next muscle on the cow, which it happens time to time. You know, you get a brisket that's gashed and missing meat that you do want on there. When you're cooking, you know, 100 plus briskets a week, you get what you get sometimes. And you just have to have good communication with your vendor, you know, and yeah, it's one thing you get 1 or 2 briskets like that. When you start getting a whole bunch, that's when you have to call them like, hey, like we got to find a way to figure out what's causing the problem and resolve it, you know. So knowing that this is an excess muscle right here, I don't want that on there. Now taking that off might expose some meat, you know, or it could, you know, because there's meat here and there's gonna be fat. So either I'm going to end up taking that off and there'll be a nice fat surface there, or it's going to be exposed. It is what it is. So I want to continue rounding this back end off and then taking off that excess. So you know, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, where I wanted, you know, nothing but fat right there. But it, you know, we're just gonna know that when we load this brisket, you know, and keep that in mind that, you know, there's gonna be some areas exposed that we don't want. So we, you know, that's one reason why we do that foil tipping. We're gonna put a sheet on there You know, in case there's not as much fat as we want, that's going to help protect that meat as well. So that's not what I'm looking for. Not quite the shape I want it yet. As you can see, there's still like some excess fat here, and it's kind of not sitting flat on the surface, which unfortunately, that's kind of a butcher error before we got this thing. This shouldn't look like this. This should be a lot smoother. There should be a lot more meat right here, but it is what it is. See, taking that little piece of fat off has allowed it to sit just a little flatter. I would like it to sit flatter because, you know, as this thing cooks and tenses up, if that's exactly what's going to do, is kind of tense up. So if it's not, you know, it looks perfect now, but later on when it's cooking, you know, it is going to kind of create this space right there. So what I might have to do is just take off a little bit more of this meat, just so I can get that surface a little more, you know, flatter. So I'm taking off a little bit more than what I would like to, but, you know, it's all to, you know, protect the rest of what's on this brisket. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Nice round shape. Because, you know, this is pretty much where the heat's hitting a brisket first. That's why it's really, really important to have it shaped this way. The airflow is better, and the juicier this brisket's going to come out to be. So now what I'm going to do is start shaping from the rest of the brisket from here on out. So again, I still haven't taken all the fat that I need to off of this thing. So I'm just pulling up the excess so I can really see what needs to come off, what needs to stay. So I will start with this cut right here. So I'm happy with that. It's nice and smooth. The fat doesn't feel too hard. It feels pretty tacky. You know, I have some more I can take off here, which is my next area. I'm going to take that off and start rounding out this edge right here. So you guys can see. Really trying to, you know, find where the right amount of fat is on this thing. We got some meat exposed right here. So that tells me that I don't need to take any more off on that edge. I really just need to get this whole side of the brisket to where it's even with that line. So anything past that on the side needs to come off. And I like to do kind of little by little here, and then I can do a long stroke here. And the reason why is I'm still trying to take some of this excess fat off, but also rounding out this edge of the brisket. So I'm going to be taking my knife and coming down where got excess fat coming off on top on my way to the side. And now I can finish on the side. So I got this nice smooth edge of the brisket. And you can see, you know, this is pretty much even here, but this is where the point starts to meet the flat. You know, it's starting to, I've got this just wonk of fat right here sitting outwards. If I were to leave that like that, that thing is just going to crisp up in a couple of hours and pull moisture from the rest of that brisket there. So I'm kind of letting like the brisket tell me where I need to cut. You can see like I've got all this cleaned up fat here where it's all nice and white, where I got this red hump right there. It's almost like brisket screaming like, hey, you need to finish me, get me clean looking like the rest of that part. So I'm not digging in too deep. I'm really just easing my knife in there, trying to take off exactly what I need and nothing more. Still, as I start to clean up, you know, the brisket down this way, I can maybe start to see some areas right here where I could take off a little more fat. We want a 1/4 inch, you know, that's the goal, is to have a 1/4 inch of fat all around this brisket. because, you know, it's going to protect the meat. It's going to help create that good bark. You know, the bark wouldn't be, if we were to expose all this meat, there'd be no fat. That bark's not going to be what we want it to be. You're going to end up getting like 2 smoke rings. So the bottom's going to be pink, the top's going to be pink. It's going to dry out. It's not going to be what we want. But, you know, especially over here, I might lean more towards leaving on a little more fat than taking it off too much, because, you know, in the cook, we can really control how much fat we're rendering. You know, before we pull a brisket off, we make sure that fat's rendered. You know, where a lot of this is going to take on a lot of the heat. So I'd rather leave on too much there. Not too much. I'm not trying to leave a whole inch of fat there. That's just, you know, going to be really, really tough to render that out, you know, but just the right amount. Big thing is the aerodynamics. Like, I could probably go in and take a little more of this out, but I like how it's nice and even. It's a good shape. So again, it's going to clean off this side. And so this is where our burnt ends come from. So we really want to protect this edge of the brisket and have fat there, not just on top, but on the side as well. Because that's where we get those real juicy, tender, smoky, burnt ends. And having that extra layer of fat is going to really protect that. Or if this meat were to expose, again, those will end up crumbling and also extracting moisture from the point right here, which these are like our best slices we're going to get out of this brisket. So we really don't want to dry those out too. As you can see, I'm finding where I need to take fat off on top, and then I'm always working my knife downwards. And what that helps is really round off the side of the brisket to where it's not like real boxy. It's real round. Like, where if I were to take off that meat first and then start shaping it, it wouldn't be as brown, if that makes sense. So like I'm starting here and coming downwards, knowing that I'm about to take off this whole strip right here. But by starting with the top and working down, it's going to be more of a smoother shape. So now that I've got my fat kind of cleaned up on this half of the brisket, I'm feathering out the meat right here, because you can still see from like this angle over here, this meat right here is sticking out further than this meat right here. So we want to even that shape out. So I'm going to find where it starts to feather out, which is pretty much right after those burnt ends. And I'm going to take that off. So now you can see it's real smooth right here. Like, it's not like a square edge where the fat then touches the meat. It's real nice and even. I'm able to see, you know, how much fat is really on the meat. You know, where all that fat was on the side here, we weren't really able to tell. Now we can really see how much is still on top of this brisket. And you know, it's a pretty good amount. You know, we're missing some fat here. I don't have quite as much as I want here. I would like it to look more like this right here, but you know, that's the name of the game. Every brisket's different. So I'm going to push it down again. I'm just making sure before I go to the rest of the brisket that I'm happy with this cut, which, as you can see right here, it's good. And then it starts to feather out this way. So that's a good indicator of where I can start rounding the brisket off here to get that nice round shape that this back end has. So I'm going to take my knife and just pretty much take that off and start to feather out that way. So now I've got a nice round shaped brisket on this side. You know, this is a little more fat than the rest of that, but that I'm not going to take off because it's not a whole lot more. Like, you know, sometimes we like to clean up this surface where, you know, it's like this red, you know, kind of flatter looking fat rather than this white tacky fat. But that's pretty much all that's there. We don't want to remove that. So now I'm gonna clean up this side. Same thing, you know. So I've got a lot more of that hard fat right here. So that's something I need to keep in mind when I'm shaping this brisket. I've got this hard fat here. I've got this lean meat that's sticking out. Again, I want a nice, even, smooth shape. So I really want to take what's sticking out from here to there. I want to just make that my nice, even side of the brisket. So again, I'm going to work my way down and then find where I want to make that cut and just go for it. So I'm going to try and take off some of this excess fat that's still there, get to that spot and pull. Now I can kind of see if there's a little bit more of this fat that I need to take off, especially as I stand here and talk about it for 15 minutes, it starts to kind of loosen up. So that's what, again, what we're looking for. You know, and this is really allowing me to see more of the marbling of the meat too, by taking off that, you know, real lean cut right there. We're starting to see how much marbling we actually have in that point, which this is about average for an upper 2/3 choice brisket. Okay, my next cut is going to be kind of finishing this off and starting to round off this side. Again, I'm pressing my hand down on this brisket. You can see how it's kind of slanting this way. And as you get down to this part, it's pretty much just fat. Like there's not a whole lot of meat right there. So if we were to leave this thing on, it's just going to dry out and kind of curl up like this. You know, so what we want to do is avoid that by taking off that real thin layer and giving this a nice shape. So that way we expose some more of the thick meat that's going to hold, you know, its structure on the pit. It's not going to curl up and crisp up and then pull excess moisture from the rest of that flat. So we're looking to round this off a little bit more to meet where we have this going right here. So again, I'm feathering out. I can kind of see it's starting to kind of, you know, pull out from the rest of this nice cut right here. So I'm going to do that and kind of see where we're at. And if you look, see how thin that lean is. And then here, there's none at all. It's just fat. So I like to do that initially so then I can really see how much I need to take off, because I don't want to take off too much. I want to take off just the right amount. And if you look over here as well, it's very similar. You know, this is just fat that's sticking out past this meat right here. So we're going to pretty much plan on taking all of this off right here. So before I make that cut, I'll kind of just make a line with my knife of what I want to take off. See, we're starting to look a little bit better. Still, you know, I think that's probably as good as it's going to get thickness wise. Just by looking at it and feeling it, that all feels pretty even right there. So I don't want my brisket to look like a torpedo like that. I want to round it off just a little bit more. So now that got that, I'm gonna go start taking this excess fat and a real thin layer of lean off. And on this side, we're gonna want more of a curve, kind of inward, than this side where it's a little more of a mellow curve. It's not quite deep in because this is the leanest part of the brisket. So that's why when we go and put foil on this thing, on the pit, we put it on that side, because that's going to be the thinnest, leanest layer of this brisket. So that could potentially be the worst part of this brisket, the driest part. So we really want to protect that as much as we can. So I'm actually probably going to go in just a little bit more, starting my knife from here, just to make it a little more round. So that's it. You know, we got a 1/4 inch of fat. We've got, you know, the thickest part of that lean as we can exposed. All the silver skin or that fat it's not gonna matter. We don't even really season the bottom that heavily because we know it's sitting on the grates, it's gonna come off. This is what we're really, really worried about. That's what we're looking for. It's nice and round, you know. I'm just, you know, one thing that's kind of really important with briskets is different angles. You know, you might think it looks smooth in one spot and then you change your angle of how you're looking at it. You're like, oh no, like there's this 1/2 inch I need to take off. So that's really it. We're looking for, you know, nice smooth surface, fat on the side here, 1/4 inch, you know, fat cap on top. I think we're pretty much done with this brisket.
Well, my brothers and sisters of the Q, I hope you enjoyed that video. My hope is that every time you go to trim a brisket, you refer back to this video and probably some of your other favorite how to trim brisket videos. But this is a special video, like I said. It meant a lot to me that Alec took the time to dive into brisket trimming. And if you're anything like me, when I was first learning barbecue, I botched a lot of briskets. It took me trimming a lot of briskets to really feel confident and comfortable with my process. My intention with sharing this video is that if I could just shorten the learning curve, if I could save you just one extra botched brisket, then mission success, job well done, meet and greet channel. So hope you enjoyed this one. As always, guys, please throw a subscription my way. It really helps tell the algorithm that a little tiny channel like mine is making a difference in the barbecue community, and hopefully YouTube will spread the good word, and I'm trying to preach the good word. So as always, guys, love you, truly do. Big Frizz, meet and greet, over and out.